How strongly do you guys adhere to the concept of spell components? I don't mean verbal and somatic. I mean like material components.
I don't really hold too hard and fast to it unless it is something quite specific and the players bring it up. But as a DM, I'm not going to force it unless it is something of intrinsic value. Like a diamond with 1,000 gold pieces, you better have that. I will
that's
ask.
fair.
Yeah, normally if it says that the spell consumes the component, then I am a stickler. But if not, then I don't really care. I mean, because most of it you can just be covered like, oh, I got a component pouch.
Yeah, if I can be honest, the only things I really give a shit about are things for rituals because I want them to role play it out, like find familiar with the bronze brazier, right? So like I want there to be that, or diamonds. Resurrection magic is should not be cheap. It's how I mitigate resurrection being every other session in this edition.
Or the jeweled bowl for Heroes Feast.
Yeah, like cool little ritual pieces or like unique things that they carry on them. I also don't target them if I end up rolling on a crit table and they lose an item or something like that. I don't target their items. Not unless it's for flavor, like a thief in a market tries to pickpocket their, jeweled bowl out of their backpack.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, how do you feel about players making their own pieces for the rituals rather than having to find them or buy them, kind of thing?
I'm all for it if you can actually tell me how you do it and you have the materials to make it. So, like, if you need a crow skull for a ritual, that's great. You're going to give me a survival check when you're out in nature to see if you can find a dead crow. You got to roll a 20 because that's a tall order. But if you do it, you get it, then there you go. You don't have to buy it. If you've got to weave together a dream catcher, just give me a sleight of hand check or a dexterity check, or just a general one for how well you do this. And it's not do you do it or not. Instead, it's how many hours does it take. Will you be able to do it in a short rest or a long rest?
I would have to agree. I love the fact that my players would want to take the initiative to do something creative, especially if it's how they're performing the spell, like the difference of how a wizard would cast a spell using it versus an artificer.
Yeah.
Flavor it how you want. Absolutely. You want your gauntlets to glow as it does this as an artificer with electricity? Sure. Go ahead. You're releasing an electrical arc. Why not?
Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast, where you never know what you're going to get.
Welcome to another It's a Mimic episode, where we continue our conversation on Dungeon Master tips in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I'm Adam, and with me today are Kyle and Tyler, and this episode is called Spells, Casts to Break the Molds.
In this episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, this panel of Dungeon Masters is going to talk about some of the unsung heroes of the spellcasters' spell lists, and why you should be choosing the spells that everyone else is leaving behind.
As it stands now, there are 516 official spells in 5th edition, but some are absolute standouts that everyone loves. Besides Magic Missile, Mage Hand, Mage Armor, Shield, Fireball, and the healing spells, all of them, what non-cantrip is the most overused in your opinion?
Let's roll initiative.
18.
12.
9. All right, I'm going last. What's the most overused spell, Kyle?
Okay, are we talking for ourselves or everybody else?
No, just in general. What you see, I guess.
Oh, okay. I mean, I personally love Misty Step, and I will have it on every character I can get it on. Hands down, right? I love it. It's gotten me out of so many jams. But for everybody else, I don't know. Healing Word, maybe?
No healing spells.
I said all of them.
No healing spells.
I like that's what I see, I guess, the most out of everything else, because it's a bonus action. It's pretty good.
I think for myself, one of the major ones that I see often that is not from the list above is Guiding Bolt. I'd say it's one of the main ones that clerics use in battle. That's my damaging spell. I will use it. Go ahead. Okay, fine. You can't be more creative. Go right ahead.
I mean, it's a good spell, though.
It is. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great spell. but I don't want my guys using it literally every single battle. You have a host of other spells that you could choose from in certain situations. But again, I'm not saying it's a bad spell. It's an amazing spell. I just want my players to look at some
Branch
of the other
out.
spells, which is what this episode's for, really.
Honestly, I had to suffer through them casting Magical Darkness for a long, long, long time. So my party loved dropping darkness on people. And Toll the Dead was another one that I saw all the time. They've recently discovered Shatter, and I've got 3
Oh, no.
characters. Of my 6 players, 3 of them have taken levels in Bard. So Silvery Barbs is now the bane of my existence. However, I will say that for me, using stuff against them, Counter Charm and Dispel Magic. Oops, now it's a regular sword again.
Yeah.
All right, before we get any deeper into talking about spells, let's cut to a quick ad break.
We've previously covered quite a bit in our discussion on player options in 5th edition. For all of those episodes and more, you can follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and dozens of other podcast apps. And if you'd like to support us, you can donate through the website, check out our store, or join the Patreon and get access to other episodes and series. If you'd like to pay for some ad space on It's a Mimic, or just send a shout out to a friend, please reach out to us through our email and website that are listed in the show notes below.
This week on the Campaign Builder, we sit down to talk about strategy sessions. These are sessions without combat, and when the players are in charge of their own future, their own narrative moving forward, and how Dungeon Masters can help facilitate that. Also, for Silver Tier patrons and above, I sit down and I go over some of the most forgotten rules in D&D 5th edition, the ones that are overlooked by the average Dungeon Master. And on top of all that, we're celebrating this week because we just hit 800 YouTube subscribers last week, and we absolutely thank everybody for your support. If you haven't gone over to YouTube and subscribed and liked some of the videos there, I really ask you politely to please go do that, because that's where we get a lot of our engagement, a lot of our word of mouth. And currently, right now, we're getting all of the YouTube videos caught up, one brand new one a day, until we're up to date again. It's been going for about a week, and it's going to go for another week and a half or so. Man, October was a busy month. Anyway, let's get back to the episode. All right, so let's go through the spell lists and see what hidden gems stick out to us from within the shadows of the more popular spells. So we're going to focus on spells just of levels 1 to 5 and cantrips, because that's where most players live and what gives us the best option to have available spell slots and known spells to play with. I had a lot of trouble coming up with how to break this episode down, because there are a handful of spells out there where we could just rant for 45 minutes on one spell, right?
Agreed.
So the way that this works is that we separated it out so that one person's going to be covering cantrips or level 1 spells, one person's going to be covering level 2 or level 3 spells, and one person's going to be covering level 4 and level 5 spells. So we're just kind of picking some to see if we can get through this. We're going to go through it by class. So we've got 6 full casters, and including the Warlock, which I know is not a full caster, but suck it.
More than others.
Yeah. And then we've got, after that, 3 of the half casters as well. For things like Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster, we're not diving into that. You just get, you're from the wizard spell list. So, it all just holds up anyway, right? So, like I say, we're going to steer clear of the high-level spells. If people like this episode, leave us a note, and we will tackle the high-level ones another time. They tend to be more complicated, and they would balloon this episode quite a lot. So I guess we'll just go in order and not roll initiative so that we're not bouncing around from spell level to spell level on this.
Probably a good idea. We're
going to start with wizard spells. Cantrips and level 1. I went through the whole damn list. There's a use for almost every cantrip for wizards. Like I see enough wizards at my table that there was nothing there that stood out to me. But Tasha's Cauldron of Everything gave us a level 1 spell that I thought was a lot of fun, and that's Tasha's Caustic Brew. This is really fun because it gives you a stream of acid that emanates from you in a line 30 feet long and 5 feet wide. But the thing that I like about it is that if you failed the dex save necessary to get away from this, then you end up having to use an action to scrape or wash the acid off. And if you are the one that got hit by acid, it does 2d4 acid damage at the start of each of its turns. So there's no secondary save to get past it. You just have to use an action to, it burns part of your initiative and the action economy. And I mean, you can have someone else burn an action to clear it off you, or you can burn your own action to clear it off somebody else. But we don't see enough ongoing damage shit outside of like Alchemist's Fire. And I don't think we see enough just uses of burning part of the action economy or using up your place in initiative. I really like that. It gives me something extra to think about.
I like that it's also just what's first level, right?
Yeah, this is level 1.
I like how it is something that's so accessibly available.
Yeah, and it's also cool because you can upcast it too, right? So it's an additional 2d4 for each slot above. So that's always good. But what's really cool is that you get hit by it and it doesn't do damage. Not until the start of your next turn. It takes a second to bubble, right?
Do you think it's damaging the clothes at all?
I would flavor it that absolutely yes, it would be. But I'm not going to ruin magical items.
No.
Yeah, but like cold weather clothing, if they're
yes
somewhere like that, right?
And
or their noble's outfit, they get hit by this on the way to the freaking King's Ball, and then like, well, shit, gotta go home and change. I guess I'll be late.
Damn it, get the sewing kit.
That's why you never leave home without mending.
Kyle, you've got the next spell, right?
Yeah, okay. So I got level 2 to 3, and I had a pretty hard time choosing one because I thought there was quite a few that were maybe underrepresented, but I went with Wither and Bloom, which is a 2nd level spell from Strixhaven, which I've never actually really gone through, but I gotta say it's a great spell. So in a 10-foot radius sphere, it deals 2d6 necrotic damage on a failed con save to every creature of your choice. And then one creature of your choice in that sphere as well can roll one of their hit die to gain life. So it is a great spell if, you got someone that's about to go down, they're surrounded by a bunch of enemies, and you have no idea how else to get them out, and you're dealing damage while also throwing out a healing spell, right? Best of both worlds kind of thing.
And what level's that? Sorry.
Second level.
2nd level. Wow, I like that. Can you upcast it? Does it do more later or no?
Yeah. So for every level higher, you get an extra d6, and the number of hit dice that can be spent and added to the healing increases by 1.
Nice. That's pretty freaking rad.
That is pretty awesome.
And that's a rare example of wizards being able to cast healing.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I like how it's not just healing, but it's damage and healing.
Yeah, it's an AoE and a healing spell, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about friendly fire as well, because you get to pick the targets that take damage.
Kyle, nobody worries about friendly fire.
Nah, well,
Have you met D&D players?
I didn't ask how big the room was.
Tyler, what do you have for levels 4 or 5?
Okay, so I picked one that it's not so forgotten that some people do use it, but I want to question how people use it. It's the spell Gies, or is it Gaze? It's however people.
Gies.
It's pronounced Gesh.
Yeah, Gesh.
You disgust me, Adam. It's Gies.
It is pronounced Gesh. It is, I believe, a Celtic word.
No.
And it actually, I looked up the definition of this years ago, and I believe it's like hex or curse, but it could have benefits as well. It's not just negative; it could also be positive. So it's kind of like it straddles the line between a blessing and a curse. So Gesh.
This is also another reason why I wanted to bring it up. I find this spell so intriguing. You can do a lot with it. It is another charm spell. Oh, hooray. Charm. Well, we never see those before. But I love that this is not just a charm for a moment. No, this can last up to 30 days. And the very fact of it is, if the creature understands you and you cast this on it and they fail their saving throw, they are charmed by you for the duration. There is no save on this. It's after you fail that wisdom saving throw, you are charmed for the entire duration and until 30 days are up. And essentially, you issue a command, and if you don't follow the command, you are going to take 5d10 of psychic damage if you don't choose it. Now, it's only once a day that you'll take this damage. But over 30 days, that's sure, you'll get a long rest in there, but that can wither you down a little bit. Or let's say it's cast on a lower level party, because keep in mind, if it's 5d10, that's a max of 50 damage. If you're a level 2 and you have this cast on you and you choose not to obey whatever is told on you to do,
Yeah, you're making death saves. That's intense.
it is. And one thing I like about this, and the reason I chose it, is you don't have to give a specific thing that is towards the story. It can be something absolutely ridiculous that they have to do, and the only caveat is it can't be something that's suicidal. There's a lot of things that they can do that are not suicidal.
Are you guys familiar with the show Preacher?
Yes.
Not as much, no.
Okay, so Tyler's absolutely not your cup of tea. So the general premise behind it is that there is a man who is a preacher who has essentially lost his faith, but he ends up getting the word of God, where when he wants, he can speak, and people have to follow his commands. And it's gnarly. The book is like 18A, like it's as rated R as you can get, because he keeps telling people to go fuck themselves and shit like that, and like they immediately go do ridiculous things. But one of the uses of this, when he like really hates a person, he turns to them and he goes, I need you to count every grain of sand on this beach, and then turns around and walks away. And then you check in with this guy like 6 months later, and he's like emaciated and barely able to function, and he's sitting there counting like 4,776,942,106, and like, there, that's all of them. And then he like gets up and stumbles back into the storyline as a broken individual. That is what Gesh is. And I think that's rad.
Absolutely. I also like the idea of giving a command that's go do this. How about a command of don't do this? Don't,
as long as it's not suicidal, right? Like you can just take away someone's reason for living. Like turn to the bard and say, don't play instruments.
Or how about even something as don't walk on your feet?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and the thing is, this is not just a flavor context. You are now going after the player sheet. They are there. What is their walking speed now?
Yeah,
they're crawling or they're on their hands. That's what I love about this, is you can give them commands that will affect what they can do, unless they want to try and take that damage. You by all means go right ahead. But man,
the tough part about it is that it does take a minute to cast, and they have to be in your sight line the whole time.
Yeah, but keep in mind, this doesn't need to be during battle.
No, but I mean, you still have to have someone tied up to get them to sit there,
or
basically for you to cast a spell.
Or first you cast sleep.
Oh yeah.
True.
Here's the other thing too I want to bring up before we get to any of the other spells. For flavor, guys, keep in mind there's going to be a big difference of casting this during battle, or in a rural area on a forest and a farm, or in an urban setting. These are all different scenarios of how these things can be cast. Casting Gesh in during a battle, near impossible. However, in an urban setting, in a busy marketplace, no one's going to ever notice.
Would you combine this with like speak with plants and animals, so that you could command an animal or a plant to do something? Like if there are thorny vines, you can speak to the plant and it will understand you. And you say, block the path for anyone that isn't me.
Yeah, why not?
It's where these combinations start to come into play that really make it interesting for me.
Now, does speak with animals a concentration?
I don't know.
Because if it is, that would not really work, I don't think.
I am a forever dungeon master. I don't know how spells work. I tell you to tell me how spells work.
Well, I can say no. It doesn't look like it is. So yeah, technically this could work.
Yeah. There's some interesting uses of like, there's a lot of communication spells that like for the next minute you can do this, right? Or there's a couple of telepathy spells or psychic ones where you can talk to someone else and it doesn't matter what language they speak. So if they understand you, and then you cast Gesh as well, right? Like there's some interesting opportunities here.
I see it as like a great spy spell, right? Like you capture someone and you go, okay, everything that happens, I need you to repeat to me everything you hear for the next month, right? Everything that goes on, every day, write me a letter telling me everything that goes on. Or
you could use this as a whenever somebody asks you a question, you don't remember the answer. right? So you could use this for sending spies across enemy lines. If they get captured, they will straight up believe that they don't know the answer, but then when they come home, this wears off and they can resume their regular lives again.
That's true.
Let's move on to
Interesting.
Sorcerer Spells. Kyle, I think you got the first cantrips are level 1.
Yeah, so cantrips are level 1. I don't know if this is underused or underappreciated, but like sleep is a phenomenal spell, right? You get 5d8, you roll 5d8, and then that's the total amount of hit points you can use to put people to sleep. So every time you put a creature to sleep, you subtract their hit points from the die total that you have, and then they fall asleep for 1 minute, which as a first level spell is insanely powerful because they don't even get a saving throw, right? It is just automatically they are asleep. And when you're first level and you're dealing with stuff that has 7 hit points, you can put, I don't know, potentially up to like 4 different creatures asleep, maybe even more if you've got like a swarm of something or like that, right? And then for every level you upcast, you get an extra 2d8. So, I mean, you go all the way up to 9. That's what, 23d8 of creatures that you can put to sleep.
That's an army.
Yeah.
We had just in our campaign like 2 sessions ago, there were 4 goblins with 4 blind hostages. They had ripped their eyes out and they were holding knives to the hostages' throats. And the bugbear commanded them, if they move forward, slit the throats immediately. So they all readied their action. So like, what do you do with that? But Dan hit next in initiative and he cast sleep and wiped out the goblins and the hostages. Just put everybody to sleep. So it was 1 bugbear against the entire party now. And that kind of shit is exactly what I want to see. He wrecked my encounter. That was supposed to be a social encounter, and it turned into a bugbear getting just pulverized. But I absolutely loved that level of problem solving, and that's what sleep is great for.
Yeah. It has so many potential uses.
Yeah, so
and
it is
it's- Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a great diffuser of a situation.
Yeah.
Also, when the bard is singing and performing in the tavern, you as a sorcerer can put half of the audience to sleep just to fuck with their ego.
I would almost want to do it in the sense of, if that's the case, that it would confuse the heck out of them, making them think that they did it.
Yeah. If you can get
Not-
your
not by
subtle
boring,
spell, your subtle spell sorcery points going off, that'd be fun.
Slipping a note to the DM every time.
Yeah. Tyler, what do you have for sorcerers?
All right, so for sorcerers level 2 and level 3, a spell that stood out to me was one called Vortex Warp. Have you guys ever heard of this spell?
Is this the freaking Critical Role? This is one of the Graviturgy spells?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know offhand. But
Strixhaven.
Is that Strixhaven? Oh shit!
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right. What does it do?
essentially, it allows you to teleport someone from one place to another. Simply put,
Against their will?
If it's against their will, they have to fail a con save, which isn't everyone's high save. But if they fail, the target is... No, they can choose to fail. So if you do this to a friendly creature, they don't have to do that. But the target is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see that's within 90 feet. Now, it has to be on a surface or in a liquid that can support the target without them being squeezed.
I have a question.
Yep.
Would you include a flag as being a surface, and you just send them up to the top of a flagpole 90 feet in the air? Would you include this being like the side of a wall on a
Let me ask you this. Can it support the character without them being squeezed?
Okay, that's the rule. Okay.
Yeah, it says it has to support the target.
Technically, yeah, you can. I mean, a flagpole could support a target.
Yeah, if you put them up top of the flagpole, then they just have to make a dex check to balance,
on
right?
there.
But
Yeah.
it's strong enough to hold them.
Yep. Or it could be on, if you're fighting, for example, on a mountainside and you put them on a peak that's like 80 feet away from you.
Yep.
But here's what I love is it says liquid. Doesn't say what kind of liquid. It just has to be able to support without being squeezed. What if you would have put them on top of a gelatinous cube?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your definition of support is, right?
Well, it just supports them without them having squeezed. You can put them over top of water and they fall in. You could put it over top of lava.
But like the I'm not sure that water's going to support me.
But you, even if you fall in, you're not going to be squeezed. That's the wording. It says support the target without the target having to squeeze.
I mean, if you really want to get granular with it, water will squeeze you if you're inside it, right? Because it's the cumulative weight of water over top of you.
If my players wanted to use this to dunk people in water or lava or something like that, I'd tell them the same thing. If the answer is yes, then the bad guys can do it as well.
Exactly,
It's an all or nothing. I like this use of it. I like that we both went in kind of a watery direction for ours for Sorcerer.
Yeah, but I just really like this idea though of because we have so many spells that allow the characters to transport from one place to another. Dimension Door, Misty Step, but this one allows you to do it to someone else.
The other thing that you could do as well is you could teleport someone into the gallows standing on the trapdoor with a rope around their neck.
Yep. You can
Ooh.
force them into a place, yeah.
Yeah, straight into behind bars, something like that.
Yeah.
I have a question. Would you allow them to transport someone into a magical nullified area?
No, because the magic doesn't work there. You could get them to the border of it, right? But if there's an
Okay.
anti-magic field up, then no. But I
Okay.
would definitely let it work through force fields. If you
Okay.
can see through it,
Absolutely.
you absolutely can. So
Or put them on top of a glyph?
see, now we're thinking here. You are now standing on top of the ward. Boom. Yeah, I like it. For my sorcerer spell, I went with Watery Sphere from Xanathar's. This is a 4th level spell, and it makes me kind of laugh because it's neat, and I don't think we have anything else really like this. You essentially make a 5-foot radius sphere of water that hovers no more than 10 feet above the ground. You can move it if you are within 30 feet of it. No, 60 feet of it, 30 feet of it. If you're within 30 feet of it, you can use an action to move the sphere, and then it just can go wherever you want. If you dock it off a cliff, it drops until it's hovering 10 feet around, like above the ground. So you can't use this to just like hover people over empty spaces or whatnot, but you can do it for lava. You absolutely can do it for pits of acid or pit traps with spikes, because they'll be 10 feet above the spikes. But the idea here is that you can choose 1 large creature or 4 of a creature smaller than large. And then if they end up in it, they got to make a strength saving throw. On a successful one, they just get yeeted out of it. And if they fail, then they're restrained. They can't move out of it. But it's also a watery sphere. It doesn't say this, but like, you can't breathe. You're not casting spells. If you are, then you're suddenly like in trouble in here, right? So but you just get to, like you were saying, Tyler, you with the vortex warp, you just teleport one person from here to there. Watery sphere is just like, hey, I'm gonna make a water bubble. I'm gonna put 4 enemies in it, and I'm gonna shift them to the other side of the battlefield. I'm gonna put them where they don't want to be, and then I'm going to keep them there. It's concentration up to a minute, and yeah, they can repeat their saving throws, but that just kicks them out over and over again. If you dispel the sphere, if you just let go of it because it's concentration, or if you want to, or the time is up, then the sphere falls to the ground and extinguishes all normal flames within 30 feet of it, and any creature restrained by it is knocked prone where it falls. So it's suddenly just like the bubble bursts and just everything around gets drenched and wet. I particularly like this because how many times do you fight fire things?
Yes.
I'm
Really often.
absolutely going to do this to a young red dragon. I'm going to do this to Mephits. I'm going to do it to Magman. I'm going to do it to fire elementals, because it's like, I'm going to put damage on this shit, right? But you can cast it. Sorry, it's up to 90 feet away, and then you can move it 30 feet at it as an action. So
My question to you is this.
Yeah.
Is that's one thing, is to take out fire. What if you drop this onto acid? Because water and acid, that is not always a good thing if you think of chemistry.
yes, and I agree with you normally, but the same way that magical fire doesn't necessarily light shit on fire, right? It does fire damage, but it doesn't light things on fire unless it specifically says that. This is magical water, so it specifically says put out flames. I'm probably
Fair
not
enough.
going to let you drink this water afterwards. It actually does say at the very end, the last sentence is, the water then vanishes.
Oh,
So
okay.
it would like push things away maybe, or get them wet, and then immediately become dry again, because all of the water vanishes.
I see a great use for this. because I'm looking at the spell and it says that when they're yeeted out of it, it's of the player's choice to an unoccupied space that is within 5 feet of it. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I would imagine, yeah. I could see that if you're dangling them in over top of something they don't want to be, and there's only one space that they're able to go to, so they succeed, they jump out onto that space. Well, guess what? There's a trap on that space.
You know what I'm using this for as a sorcerer? This is how I get the rest of the party across the volcano, like across the pool of lava.
Ooh, yeah. I actually like that because it also keeps them cool.
Yeah. So this is also going to be relatively useful for transporting your party around. You can't go vertically, but you can get across as long as it's above a surface. You can get them there, right? And you can move them 30 feet as well, right? In any direction, which means that you can put them like down and do like they can drop 20 feet, and then you can move it up to 20 feet on the other side of the gorge, right? To get to the other side, it would just like it hovers. So you can move it around. It's
basically
just,
has a climbing speed kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So also, this is a stealthy way of getting your paladin down the hallway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay. So also I'm wondering, if it moves over a pit or a cliff, right? Couldn't you just hypothetically end the spell as soon as it's over the edge of the cliff and then drop someone down? Because you can end concentration at any time.
You could. I think that it's super shitty to do that. Like, it's clearly not rules as intended here.
Yeah.
If it moves over a pit, a cliff, or other drop-off, it safely descends until it is hovering 10 feet above the ground. It doesn't tell you what speed that's at either. It just safely does it.
Yeah.
So it might like drop at terminal velocity, but nobody gets hurt.
I was saying it can drop at terminal velocity, but then once it reaches that, it slows down almost immediately. And it's like a buffer of water inside, so you're not actually hurt. You're just jolted.
Yeah.
You might have
Just feel
whiplash.
like laundry.
Oh yeah.
I also like the idea too, like in my head, there's like a current or waves inside of it. So the people are getting like kind of buffered around a little bit as the water moves, because they do land prone when they get spat out when the spell ends, right? So
yeah.
Are they going to be wet or are they going to be dry when they come out of it?
When the spell ends, they become dry. But like if the spell is still going, they were in it, they managed to make their strength save and they get out of it. They fall to 10 feet, so they'll take the 1d6 damage. They're still wet until the spell ends, and then the water vanishes.
Okay. I'm just thinking a bit of, as a player, I would always want to cast this on someone, and they manage to get out, but then shoot them with lightning bolt.
I always make water. If you are soaked, you take double damage for lightning and cold. I always do that. But that's a homebrew rule for me. So
I do much the same.
Let's move on to Bard spells.
All right. So I have the cantrip / level 1. I went on a different route here, guys. I chose something that is very common, and that is dissonant whispers. How often do we see bards using this particular spell? But the reason I chose this is more so out of how can we take this spell and creatively use it? We see it almost always in battle as one of the options that the bard can do. But let's take that out of battle. Let's say you're in a social setting, or you're in a group, you're in a hall even, and you have someone trying to plead their case in front of the magistrate. And then from the corner, you have the bard cast dissonant whispers on this person or someone in the court, and they just start to scream. Because how dissonant whispers works, guys, is the only person who can hear it is the person you're casting it on. And I believe it's 60 feet is what it is. Just double checking that.
It is.
Yeah, 60 feet. So if that's the case, you're 60 feet away. Someone might see a mouth moving, but they don't hear anything. But there's one person who hears it, and then all of a sudden they're just screaming in pain, or just are going mad with these whispers in their head and causing them pain. And I want to see how everyone would react to it. So take this out of a combat option, put it into a social setting, or even an exploration. See how that works, and see what people do around.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. That's flavorful. Although I feel like it's going to kick off combat. This is the round before shit hits the fan.
It might, but it could be that you have maybe the party is in court and they've been accused of something.
Yeah, or you can even do it to like discredit someone who, like, if you're in a public place and someone is trying to besmirch your name, you start casting dissonant whispers on them, and they start reacting to the voices that aren't there.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
and makes them look crazy. But again, remember, people can tell when you're casting spells, so you gotta come up with a pretty good way for them to realize or to not realize that you're doing this, right?
Well, here's the
I
thing
see-
with. Go ahead.
I see where Tyler's coming from, because it says it's only a verbal component and you whisper it and only one person can hear you. So technically only that one person would know if you were
Exactly.
doing it. My issue is how long it lasts, because it's only 6 seconds. So sure, that person is racked with pain and might do something weird, but then they'd probably know you did it, right? And then
How would they know if you're
in
in a group of people though? If you're in a crowd of people,
Yeah, if you're in a crowded marketplace, yeah, how would they know it was you? But if you're in combat, right?
oh
like,
gosh, yeah, absolutely.
they know it's you.
That's what I'm saying. Take it out of combat.
Yeah, if you're in like a court proceeding, they'll know it's you. But you want to use this in a social scenario in a crowd.
Yep, absolutely.
I want to one up this before I move on to mine just for a second here. There are a lot of superstitious kind of enemies, goblinoids and orcs and whatnot, who are always looking for omens from their gods. Dissonant
Oh, yeah.
whispers might be the way to do that.
Absolutely.
So mine for bards is feign death. Now, honestly, I normally think about this as a cleric spell, but I love it for bards because bards are always getting in over their heads in a big way. You touch a willing creature to put it in a cataleptic state that is indistinguishable from death. This is not concentration. You can do this as a ritual. The range is touch, and it does say a willing creature. I need to point out, you can be that willing creature. You can just say, and I'm dead, and just like poke yourself in the forehead. The idea here is that for up to an hour or until you use an action to touch the target and dismiss the spell, so if you do it to yourself, it's an hour, then the person that you touch appears dead to all outward inspection and to spells, trying to figure out if they're alive or dead. The target is blinded and incapacitated because they're essentially unconscious, and speed drops to 0. But here's the best part. Here's why when people should be using it, this is why I chose this, because a lot of people know it exists and think, what's the point? The target has resistance to all damage except psychic damage. If the target is diseased or poisoned when the spell is cast, or they would become that way, it doesn't actually continue. There's no ill effects for the next hour till the spell ends. So 2 things. 1, when you get hit by the big dragon attack and you are poisoned, and like if you are cursed by something that means that you're poisoned for a certain amount of time, if your DM hates you and is using the poison that they found in the DMG, this is how you live a little bit longer. But also, if your Eberron airship is crashing and you turn to the DM and say, how many rounds before we hit the ground? And he says 3. You run around with your 3 second level spell slots and go, all right, who's not going to be able to survive this? I'm going to leave the barbarian alone. I'm going to leave the freaking monk alone. They'll slow fall. But wizard, feign death, half damage. Rogue, feign death, half damage. And as for me, bleep, and down I go, right? And then you all wake up an hour later among the wreckage.
That is brilliant.
So-
I look at this as like a cryogenic for an hour.
Yeah, right. Like I really like you're going to take damage. You are.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that this can mitigate the I'm going to ready my action so that when the dragons takes this big inhale to blow the breath weapon at me, and I know I won't survive it, feign death.
Yeah.
Down I go. So everyone will think I'm dead and the dragon will move on, and I still took 40 damage, but I'm still alive for now. So
Yeah.
I almost
I
like.
love
Oh, go ahead.
I love this as kind of a social spell as well, right? Like you get hired to go kill this person, or there's a bounty out on someone's head. Let's say it's the bard or the rogue, right? And then you go, okay, we're just gonna pretend to kill you, bring you in and get that bounty, right? And then we'll leave again.
yeah,
And then there you go. You got rid of all your wanted posters.
the only thing I want to point out here is that it does have to be a willing creature, which means that this is not how you get your paladin to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
No, that's
What
okay. That's why you don't invite him around.
I could see someone doing this in battle. let's say in warfare, and you're on a losing side here, and all you guys are being slaughtered. You suddenly do feign death on yourself, and you fall to the ground. The enemy's just going to pass over by you, thinking you're just another one of the dead bodies.
Depends on the enemy. If it's an intelligent enemy, the hobgoblin will walk by. The wolf will continue to eat you.
You're right, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying in a warfare setting.
Yeah. So, what do you have for bards, Kyle?
Modify memory. I
Say no more.
love this spell.
Wait, what did you say? I forgot.
Modify memory. So basically, you can alter a target's perception of something that happened within the last 24 hours. It can be a 10-minute period, and it basically lasts until someone casts remove curse on you. And it's just like it's gaslighting to the next level, and it has so much potential in any sort of social situation, where you are really trying to negotiate something, or you did something dumb and you're trying to make someone forget. Like it gives you a great gimme. And besides that, I also love it for I've been writing this kind of campaign that basically centers around modify memory, because it's just, you can fuck people up so good with it, and I just love it.
I have played with the concept of this between false hydras and the river Styx and shit as well. I love playing with memories. My players have come to grit their teeth whenever memory shit comes up.
Yeah.
Because what is reality? But my favorite
It's all fantasy.
My favorite thing about this is that I think it might actually be one of the most evil spells out there.
Oh yeah.
I like using this spell when I'm talking to my players ahead of time. If I'm using this as a plot point, I want to talk to one specific player ahead of time and plan this out with them. This is what I would like to do. I'm not going to tell you what the end result is, but this is what I would like to do, and this is kind of the direction I am going. Are you on board with this? Because again, we don't want the players to hate us. Well,
except for Dan.
We don't want the players to hate us. We want the characters to hate us, but not the players.
Except for Dan. And hold on, and Dave.
Fair enough. But I want to come at this with a point of I don't want to do anything that's going to deter them from playing more. So if I'm using this without them even knowing, and it's just going to completely screw them over, I don't want to do that to my players. I want them to enjoy themselves. Now, if this is going to lead to having fun, sure. But again, I don't want to be an adversarial DM with this. I want to have a plan and know what I'm doing with it.
Well, yeah, I would agree. Right? Like I wouldn't use this against a player. This is something I would use against NPCs, right? And
absolutely.
One of the biggest ones I would use it for is trying to get around insight checks, right? So you don't know you're lying if you don't know what you're saying is a lie, right? So that's the big one.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps with like divination magic. I mean, obviously you want your players to be able to figure it out in the end, right? That hey, wait a minute, something's not quite right here. To give them the tools to find out what it is. But I just think it can help you get out of some tough jams in terms of storylines.
How long does it take to cast?
1 action.
Great. You know what I use this for as a dungeon master? This is how I get my murder mystery, because so many players will just speak with dead. But if in their last second I hold my action until I see the light going out of their eyes, and with their last raggedy breath, my murderer casts modify memory. You do not remember who killed you.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
So I also would absolutely use this on my players, assuming that they're able to manage meta knowledge intelligently and respectfully. So
yeah.
I would use this for, like, if they stumble upon a prophecy, I will then modify the memory of the characters so the players know and have to watch in slow horror as it happens in front of them, and the characters have no idea. But that depends on the table, right? So
yeah. I wish an artificer could learn this, because I'd want them to infuse it into an item that they just click and it's suddenly a bright light shines out.
Is it just Men in Black people?
Yes.
I'm going to move on now to Warlock Spells. So this is me for cantrips or level 1. I went with the first level spell. This is not one that people don't use, but it's never their first or second choice, and it's one of my favorite for role playing. For Warlocks, though, you only have so many spell slots, so a lot of people rely on the damage kind of stuff, but man, do I love Illusory Script. Illusory Script allows it so that when you write down on some sort of writing material that's suitable, you imbue it with a potent illusion that lasts for up to 10 days, where only the people that you designate can read the real message. Everybody else sees something else. I have used this to great effect with my NPCs and my bad guys. When I have a secret bad guy in the midst of my party and they are passing notes back and forth, if you are one of my listeners or one of my players and you are listening to this right now and you think, oh, we passed a message for that guy that one time, chances are good he was evil and this was used against you. I do this shit all of the time and I love it. But my favorite part here is that you can dispel this when you want, at which point both the original script and the illusion both disappear. Which means, because creatures with true sight can see the actual message, you can just dispel it, wave a hand, and even the original messages, not just the illusion goes away, the original message goes away as well, just to cover your tracks. So I actually find this incredibly useful.
It is gone.
Yeah, and I like this for like the diplomatic side, the social. I do a lot of intrigue in my campaigns, so this comes into play. I'm probably not going to pick this as my first level spell for my Warlock in Lost Mine of Phandelver, right? There's not a whole lot of opportunity for this.
I would almost want to use this for religious, a religious intrigue.
It could be religious. I was also thinking, if I'm on a pirate ship and we are we have our false flag up, it can operate as two flags. Other pirates can see our flag, but the actual law enforcement sees the appropriate merchant flag that they're expecting to see, right? You get a lot of uses out of this.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it have to be on a parchment or can it be on any writing surface?
It says parchment paper or some other suitable writing material, which means, and I'm not going to say it has to be writing. You can draw. You could probably dye things certain colors. I'm going to let you play with this a little bit more. So
could it be on a cave wall or something?
Mm-hmm. That's suitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could write a message on a cave wall that's only for people that are looking for a particular treasure that you hid for them to find, but no one else knows it there.
Or it could be something as simple as the party split up and you're all getting chased by things, and so you write a message on the wall in the kobold tunnel that says, hey guys, we went left, and the kobold sees, hey guys, we went right.
Yeah.
Now some of them are going to inherently go left just because.
I also like the idea of using it, not even trying to pass secret messages, but trying to create discord between two parties of people by giving them a piece of paper, and to each one it says something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are trying to create suspicion amongst a group of people, right? So you get this piece of paper and one person reads it and says, oh, Countess blah 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 did this, and then another person will be like, the Duke of this other nation did this, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys for the just flavor context on this particular spell. If a person who's reading it that is able to read it, the true thing of it, do they see the false thing as well? Do they see it and then just kind of melds into what it is? Or is it they only see what's actually there? Are they able to detect that this spell is cast on it?
That's a good question. DM discretion, player discretion, whoever casts this, if you wanted to be able, honestly, I would just have it be, just so you know, it says this for the other guy, right? So
okay, yeah,
that's easy enough to get around.
No, absolutely, but I would just want to, I would want to see if that would have any effect, like you said, Kyle, having it for that political intrigue that one group sees this and what the other group sees that. Well, do they see what the fake was and then it blends into the other one, or they only see the one and they try and confer with each other and they can't tell which is truth and which is lie?
I think it's however you want it, because it says it can either appear unintelligible or you can have it appear to be written in an entirely different hand. So you could like copy someone's handwriting.
Yeah, but
Right?
that's for the people that are being fooled by it. For the people that see the real stuff, it says the writing appears normal, written in your hand, and conveys whatever meaning you intended when you wrote the text. So that was kind of the other thing about this. That's the other thing about this that I like, is it conveys whatever meaning, which means if you are dealing with language barriers, or there's some sort of like some sort of political issue where the people are twisting your words or things like that, this gets past that. This is the only way where your intentions are absolutely clear. So, for example, if I'm going to make a genie wish and he says, tell me what you want, I will write it in illusory script, let him see the truth, hand it to him, and there's no, oh, I could have meant this. No, it was very specific.
You hear him utter a curse under his breath.
Yeah, right. So this is how I get around stupid nonsense like that. Kyle, what do you have for warlocks?
I picked Spirit Shroud. So basically, it is along the same lines as the Cleric Spirit Guardians. It's a 3rd level spell. It's from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It only costs 1 bonus action to cast, and it's concentration of up to a minute. So basically, you call forth spirits of the dead. They flit around you for the spell's duration. Any attack that you make deals an extra 1d8 damage, and you can, when you hit a creature within 10 feet of you, so it doesn't have to be a melee or necessarily a weapon attack. It could also be a spell attack as well, right? So I don't think you can get it with, you can get it with Warlock. So it'd be a great addition to, Eldritch Blast. The damage either deals radiant, necrotic, or cold, your choice, when you cast the spell. And any creature that takes damage can't regain hit points until the start of their next turn. Additionally, any creature that you can see that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet until the start of the next turn. So I really like this because, first of all, it does quite a bit of damage extra. The losing 10 feet of speed is great, but the can't regain hit points, right?
That's big.
Yeah, especially useful when I was like looking at all the creatures that have regeneration and stuff like that. If you don't have any fire spells or radiant spells, it's great.
Now I have a question. Is it only the damage that's inflicted by this, or is it the total damage this round? Like it can't heal at all until its next turn.
So whenever you make an attack to a creature within 10 feet of you, it deals an extra 1d8 damage. And so whatever creature takes that 1d8 damage can't regain health.
Period. So it's not just the 1d8, it's all damage that they take they can't regain health from.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same either way, isn't it?
Well, no, because if it's just the 1d8 damage, that's it. Then all other damage, they can still heal themselves for all the other damage except that 1d8. But if it's all damage done to them until the next round, then that's big.
I'm pretty sure it's all damage.
Yeah, I think so too. Based on the wording, I think it's all damage.
Any creature that takes this damage can't regain hit points.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
damage from this spell specifically.
No. The trigger is that if you took damage from this spell, so that's the trigger, the resulting effect is you cannot regain hit points, period. Now, you can still have temporary hit points applied because you're not regaining them, but you can't heal.
Yeah.
That's still pretty big, because if you hit someone with this and then you got a heavy hitters come in afterwards, they can't heal from that.
Exactly, right? Like they're getting right down near the end, you got that big bad, and you got someone that fucking loves to heal. I really like it. This
is, as a DM, how I deal with my Twilight Cleric.
Yeah.
So for mine, for the level 4, level 5, I actually picked an interesting one called Shadow of Moil. And the only reason I know about this one is because one of my players used this, and I had to look this up, and I think it's really great. Essentially, as soon as you cast it, you have flame-like shadows wreathe all over your body. You're covered in this shadows, essentially. And anything that's within 10 feet of you dims that light down, whatever it is. If you're in a shadowy area, it turns to darkness. If you're in bright light, it turns to dim light. And when this is the case, you become heavily obscured to others. In addition to this, you have resistance to radiant damage, and also any creatures that are within 10 feet of you, if they hit you with an attack, they are going to take 2d8 damage. Now, this doesn't say that it's as a reaction. No, every time someone attacks you, they take 2d8 damage. One thing I really like about this, and it just briefly says that it's causing you to become heavily obscured to others. Have you guys ever looked at the rules for that when something is heavily obscured?
Yeah, we did an episode on cover, light, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
So essentially, any attacks against you are at disadvantage
yeah.
when this is cast upon you. So you've essentially any attacks against you are at disadvantage because you are heavily obscured. They can't completely see you.
The thing that's so fucky about this is that if you get hit by an attack, the shadows lash out and do damage, right?
Yes.
You don't roll for that. They just do it. The only roll you're making is your concentration roll.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
regardless, you will lose concentration, but this will still happen, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So this is one of the handful of cases where you actually get to do automatic damage.
Which is one thing I really like about this. Now, I also like this in a social setting too, not just within combat. But you guys ever think of the movies where you see a scene of someone getting close to something and the light kind of dims around them? That's what this spell is. You're kind of getting close to someone and they're going to get freaked out because the light is disappearing around them. And how does this work for intimidation? How does this work in a social setting?
I gotta say, if I can be perfectly honest, I'm a little weirded out by the fact that this isn't like available for shadow sorcerers. This just feels like it really freaking should be. It's
really
great for
does.
warlocks, but it feels like it should be.
Yeah, I would almost say that if my character was delving really into it and they said, "Can I do this?" I would say, you know what, absolutely. I will grant you the ability to use this as a 4th level spell because it suits it so fine.
All right, let's move away from warlocks for a second here and look at clerics.
Okay, so cantrips first level. I picked Sanctuary, which is a first level spell, and basically you can force people to target you instead of their original target if they fail a Wisdom saving throw, which honestly is a great spell if you have a bunch of low level squishies, or you are going, Forge Cleric, where you got 22 AC and you want somebody and you want to get them away from the barbarian that is walking around with a 16 AC, right? You just push them all towards you, and it only costs 1 bonus action, so you still get the rest of your turn, honestly, and no concentration either. It's just a minute duration.
This is intense because there's so few things that are a bonus action for clerics.
Yes.
It's a
Another thing I would
magic
say with
weapon,
this is,
spiritual weapon.
Yeah.
so Sanctuary, it dissipates if you attack someone, correct?
No. If the warded creature makes an attack,
Yeah,
not
the warded
not
spell
the warded
that it
creature,
infects
yeah.
an enemy or
Yeah.
deals damage to another creature.
Exactly.
So not you, but the other guy.
So what if you were to be placing someone who is just simply buffing everyone else?
Yeah.
They could do that, having this on them and keep it on them.
Yeah, you get
Or-
your bard, where they're just giving away inspiration.
Absolutely. Or what if you're in a social setting? Sorry, I love taking things out of combat and trying to put it into the other pillars. If you're in a social setting that it's going to get bad, you just put this on somebody who's trying to dissuade the situation, then all of a sudden it goes bad. They try and attack it. Oh, they have Sanctuary on them. And it gives them a chance to get out.
I like this for really hostile situations when you have to send, your bard, the face of the party, in to go negotiate with the hostile chief or whatever, right? And everybody else is pointing their weapons at him, ready to let loose with their arrows and spears and whatnot. Sanctuary is you send them in alone with Sanctuary, right?
How long does it last?
Last for just a minute, but if I can be honest, I very rarely end up with super long conversations when it's a quick negotiation that's that hostile.
You can also just prep an action too, right? Like if things turn dirty.
Yeah.
Cast Sanctuary.
Yep, absolutely. It's quick.
What do you have for clerics, Tyler?
So I have a 3rd level spell here called Aura of Vitality. Now, first and foremost, there's not enough auras in D&D 5th edition. There are not enough. So the fact that I have this makes my heart happy. And not only that, it's not something that does damage to other people, but it heals people. You essentially cast this on you, and anyone who's within a 30-foot radius of you, for up to a minute, it's cast on you. Anyone who comes within 30 feet gains 2d6 hit points. Now that might not seem...
This is just Twilight Cleric Light.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
no,
it may
you have
not
to use a
seem-
bonus action to give them that health.
Yes, you have to use your bonus action to do it. But at the same time, it's 2d6 of hit points. That's better than healing word.
It's better than cure wounds.
And it lasts up to a minute. You can continually do it every round using your bonus action to heal someone around you that is within 30-foot radius.
Potentially up to 20d6.
This threw me for a bit of a loop, and for any listeners out there that don't own Tasha's, yes, this is a paladin spell. In Tasha's, this got expanded to be optional cleric spells as well. So it does count.
Exactly.
I did have to look that up for a second. I'm like, what? But
yeah, that's when I saw it for the cleric. I'm like, I like how they did this. It gives it more versatility.
Yeah.
Because you have your clerics with heavy armor who are going to be up in the middle of battle. And they suddenly cast this. And then everyone on the front lines is also getting this healing. Or at least you can choose.
This is a no-brainer. This is great. And I think that the reason that people aren't picking this is because it's in one of the additional books, right? If this was in the player's handbook, this would be an automatic go-to. For what level spell is this?
This is a level 3 spell.
Yeah, that feels pretty powerful. I mean, it's up against things like Revivify for clerics, but I think it's Spirit Warriors, level 3 as well.
Spiritual Guardians. Yeah, that's level 3.
Yeah, all right, there we go. So it's been a long ass time since I played a cleric. I don't really get clerics in my games now that I think about it.
Who wants to play clerics? Those are the class that no one wants to play, but that's one of the most useful.
I love clerics personally.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is between 3.5 and 5, they really got they used to be like healer class, right? They used to be great, but now druids are a better healer than
unless you're a life clerik. Yeah,
exactly. Hey, I played a life cleric one time, and you know what happened? Huh? Eaten by 1,000 rats.
You probably had it coming.
For my cleric spell, I picked a 4th level spell instead of a 5th because this really stood out to me. You guys know do you guys know Curse of Strahd at all? Have you played it?
I don't know him personally.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it.
There's a spell called Daylight. And here's the damn thing about Daylight is when you cast it, it does radiant and yay, light and whatnot. It absolutely does not do sunlight. And sunlight is the thing that you need against Strahd and vampires to make it so that they can't resurrect. They need to be in sunlight. Well, in Xanathar's, there's a 4th level spell for clerics called Dawn, and it's nuts. The light of dawn shines down in a location you specify within range. It's 30-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder of bright light. It says right in the spell, this light is sunlight. It does 4d10 radiant damage when they fail a constitution save, or half as much if they succeed on it. And they also have to make the save if they end their turn in the cylinder. Here's the best part. It's got 60-foot range, but if you're within 60 feet of the cylinder, you can move it up to 60 feet as a bonus action on your turn, which means it costs an action to do this. Bang, I dropped it on them. Everybody takes damage. And then I'm also going to move it 60 feet. So if I put it with the radius, the 30-foot radius at 60 feet, I can then move it not within 60 feet, but another 60 feet further away. So I can technically hit something 135 feet from me. Yeah. I then have to haul my ass back over to it to be able to move it again on the next turn. I'm gonna have to dash to do it. But I really like this because you can fuck up Strahd something fierce with this. And if you have not looked into this in Xanathar's and you are playing Strahd and you are a cleric, you are missing the fuck out. I saw this and went, we no longer need the Sun Sword. I just have this 5th level spell. So
I hope my players are not listening to this because we're going to be starting a Strahd campaign in about a month.
Well, here you go.
Adam.
Make sure that none of them pick cleric.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. Like, this is the cheapest, easiest sunlight spell that I could find. And because it's only 5th level, you will get this by the end of Curse of Strahd. A lot of the other sunlight stuff that's out there, you don't get in time, right?
Yeah,
so
this is one that you can get in time.
Yeah. Let's jump on to druids for a moment.
All right. So the one that I found for druids, I've never played a druid before. And so I looked up this one, and it's called Primal Savagery. I love flavor, and this certainly gives flavor because it is I believe it's a cantrip. Yeah, it's a cantrip. And you essentially cause your teeth and your fingernails to sharpen. and you can deliver a corrosive attack with it. So whenever you hit someone with your fingernails or your teeth, so you can actually literally bite somebody. You can be a humanoid that bites. The target takes 1d10 of acid damage. And after you're done, your teeth and your fingernails return to normal. Now, I find this is really cool. It looks really fun, but imagine what you could do for assassination type of things. Because this spell also increases in damage by 1d10 when you reach the 5th level, 11th level, and 17th level. 17th level, you get 4d10. I would almost want to see someone kind of come from the side with this, and someone who's not expecting it, they transmute their hand and just kind of stick it in somebody's side, these claws, and deal this damage.
See, I've always wanted to play a shifter druid with lycanthropy, so that I can just run the gamut of primal savagery, all the weird things that shifters do, beast form, and then I can actually just turn into a fucking wolf or a werewolf. Like I can just do whatever. I'm leaning so hard into very much one flavor, and I think that it would be fun for a whopping 10 sessions. However, it's so flavorful, and I get to just, what version of wolf am I going to be today, right? I just think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
One thing I like about
The
this
ultimate
too.
furry.
Yes. One thing I like about this is it gives you 1d10 for an attack. If you're at first level, and you're a druid. Now, sure, you could take shillelagh, however you want to say it. This does more damage than that.
Shillelagh is definitely the more popular one that I've seen everybody take.
Exactly, but shillelagh is what, 1d8, I believe.
Yeah, and it requires you to have something that can turn into that weapon, right? Whereas this is just you yourself.
You yourself, and it's 1d10 of acid damage. Now, given there's some things that are resistant to acid damage, but there's other things that are not resistant to acid damage.
There's not much. Acid is one of the good ones.
Exactly.
Right?
So the fact of the matter that you can use this and it's hidden on you. You don't need a quarterstaff. You don't need anything. In fact, you could have whatever you're casting your spells with you on you in one hand, and then you could just.
I always have a general rule for my characters that they always just hide a blade somewhere on them, so that when I get my hands bound, I can cut my way out. Don't need that with primal savagery.
Yeah, and I like that. I just love the flavor that it can be your teeth. You can literally bite somebody, and you're not a vampire.
Yeah. I find the acid damage part weird. I find it doesn't fit, right? Like, why are your nails and your teeth suddenly doing acid damage?
No, because it's doing corrosive damage. It's kind of like damage you'd be from a snake almost.
But that would be like, that is literally necrosis. You would think that would be necrotic damage.
Necrotic, yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird, but you know what? I'll take it.
There's not enough acid damage.
There's not enough acid damage, especially at the cantrip level. You have acid splash, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
I think if I take a druid, I'm taking this instead of shillelagh, 100%.
So for druids, I picked a second level spell called Skywrite. It's very simple and incredibly effective at what it does. You get to use 10 words to form in a part of the sky that you can see. They look like they're made out of cloud, and they remain in place for as long as up to an hour, as long as you're concentrating. When the spell ends, they go away. A strong wind can disperse the clouds as well, ending the spell. So this passes my, well, how are we going to get a message back to the kingdom? It's easy. It'd be like, there are orcs coming. It's written in
those clouds look interesting.
But here's the other thing. It doesn't say that you have to speak the language, which means I can tell the orcs that Groomsh is mad at them. This is Groomsh. Go home.
Maybe you're doing like pictographs in the sky that it just tells them what it is.
Interesting. But wouldn't you would have to speak the language for them to see it, right?
You would only have to be able to mimic it, right? Like, you don't have to speak the language. You could just, if someone were to say, here's this piece of parchment, this is what this says, put this up in the sky, you can do it. So someone else in your party can speak the language, then you can do this.
Yeah.
So all it says is you cause up to 10 words to form. The only deal is you have to pick a part of the sky that you can see. So, not useful underground. This is not going to be great in Pandemonium, but I think that this would be absolutely freaking flavorful and amazing for for sending omens, for undoing the marching army, for causing shit to just to have an extra level of superstition. What was I talking about before with this? It was dissonant whispers, right? It's the same kind of kerfuckery with the enemy that I really like. It's not going to work for a lot, but when it does work, it's going to be amazing, and it's a great way to, when your party is going to go do two separate things, they split the party, to opposite sides of the city. They can pass a message back and forth without needing sending or any of the other huge spells, right? So
yeah,
Skywrite is a lot of fun. I also think that it'd be really fun. I know that this is for druids, but bards get this too, and I can just picture this being like, come see my show at the bar tonight, right? It can be their marketing campaign, or also like Hagar the Druid sucks balls.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is it only going to be letters and like writing, or can it be like images or
it specifically says up to 10 words.
Okay, so not symbols or anything like that.
No, what's a hieroglyph?
Yeah, exactly.
I will let you argue with me if I'm a DM. So
yeah, I have no problem, because I want to play with the superstition aspect and put a symbol in the air that another tribe might consider incredibly superstitious or a sign of attack.
Yeah, but I like the idea of, well, we can't actually draw black crows in clouds, so we're just going to write the words 3 black crows in orc, see if they figure it out. Right.
I also would love to see you could have a druid to do this, but more likely a bard just shape a cloud into a middle finger.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is I was thinking like you could put a giant, like, you're not going to be able to do graffiti dicks in the sky, right?
No,
like,
exactly. I'm like,
so
yeah.
Anyway, Kyle, what do you have for druids?
I picked Wrath of Nature, which is a 5th level spell. It's kind of actually insane. I mean, it's very situational, right? But if you are out in a forest, the thing is just, it's almost too good for a 5th level spell. So it's basically a concentration, and in a 60-foot cube centered on a point you choose, you get a number of different effects. So with grasses and undergrowth, any area of ground in the cube that is covered by grass or undergrowth is difficult terrain for your enemies. Trees lash out at the start of each of your turns. So you get to pick one enemy within 10 feet of any tree, and they make a dex save, or they take 46 slashing damage. Then at the end of each of your turns, one creature of your choice that's on the ground in the cube has to make a strength saving throw or become restrained until the spell ends. And a restrained creature can make a saving throw, blah, 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 you know, that normal stuff. And then also, as a bonus action on your turn, you can choose loose rock in the cube to launch at a creature you can see within the cube. So you make a ranged spell attack dealing 3d8 non-magical bludgeoning damage. And it must succeed on a strength saving throw or fall prone. So difficult terrain, you get to whip one creature with a tree. Then you can also restrain another creature. And then you can also shoot a rock at somebody on the same turn.
It's beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah, I would definitely use this for a villain.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or just someone who's really pestery and just throws rocks at you and has the rest of this happen at you from high ground. It's like, stop it, ow, dang it, stop it.
You don't even know what's going on. It's just all of a sudden this thing springs up, and then rocks start shooting at you, trees start whipping you.
I feel like any kind of angry dryad is going to have this spell, even though it's way more powerful than a dryad.
Yes.
The forest will just be able to manifest this sometimes when you're in the Feywild.
Yeah.
Oh,
like it feels like a layer action almost.
Right? Yeah.
It does.
I love this. This is phenomenal. Well, that's a great choice. Which book is that from?
That's from Xanathar's.
Yeah. Too cool to be Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the last part of our conversation here, we're going to look at the half-casters and just their first 3 levels of spells, because that takes us all the way into tier 3. And remember, these guys don't get cantrips, so this is kind of the same power scale as the 1 to 5 for the full casters. We're going to start off with Paladin, and I'm going first on this one. Okay, so I picked probably my favorite spell in the whole damn game, and that is Ceremony. I don't know why I love this so much. I had this when I was a cleric as well, but I love this for paladins because you're essentially doing a special religious ceremony, but it's magical. You get to choose what kind of ceremony, what rites you're doing when you cast the spell. The casting time is 1 hour because you're literally officiating a ritual. You can either cast Atonement, where one willing creature whose alignment has changed, you reach out and touch them. You make a insight check with the DC 20, and on a successful check, you restore them to their original alignment. This is good because there's some shit in the deck of many things that can shift alignments. There's Bless Water, which is pretty straightforward. You touch one vial of water and cause it to become holy water. Just pointing out here, for a first level spell, again, if you're playing Curse of Strahd, that is insane. Every time you have a first level spell left over at the end of your, like, and you're going into a long rest, it is time to cast Ceremony on a vial of water. Coming of Age, where you get to touch one humanoid who is a young adult, and for the next 24 hours, whenever they make an ability check, they can roll a d4 and add that to the ability check, but this only applies to each creature once in their lives, so it's essentially Mazel Tov. Dedication, where you touch one humanoid who wishes to be dedicated to your god's service. So, like, if you can convert somebody, this is how you do it. Whenever they make a saving throw for 24 hours, they can roll a d4 and add it, just the same as a Coming of Age. And again, they only do this once. Funeral rites. You touch one corpse, and that corpse for the next week cannot become undead by anything short of a wish spell. And then Wedding, you touch two adult humanoids willing to be bonded together in marriage, and for the next 7 days, each one of them gets a +2 bonus to AC when they're within 30 feet of each other, and they can only benefit from this right again if they're widowed. So I love that the ceremony doesn't believe in divorce. It makes me laugh every time.
That's called becoming a widow, because one of you is dead.
Yeah. So I really like this. It's really, really flavorful, and it never comes up. So I'm always looking to use this in downtime. This is what I want to have for when the DM says, "Hey, what are you guys doing when you're back in town?" and everyone goes off to the bar. I'm going to go perform some ceremonies. I've got a number of first level spell slots left. Let's see what I can do to ingratiate myself with the public here, and I can become a member of this community.
Yeah. I also love that the Wedding gives you +2 to AC. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what a weird bonus.
I feel like it should be like temporary hit points, or like so something to do with charisma.
Advantage on charisma saves or something like that. But
I'll take it.
Yeah. You know what? Now I really want to make a like Vegas wedding preacher
dressed as Elvis. Yeah. Anyways, like I really like this. It's super flavorful. I'm not sure I can recommend everybody takes this, but as a paladin walking in as a like pillar of justice and goodness, yeah, like it's a fun way to get in touch with the community that isn't just you standing there going, "Hey, follow the fucking laws," right?
Yeah.
So
it also gets the player out of the whole rut of I'm only able to do stuff in combat. That's all I can do. Yeah.
This connects you to your village. Also, in a lot of medieval times and early on, like there were traveling preachers, and that was a big deal. So there would be people like waiting. Your party shows up, and someone can actually do these rituals. There might be a lineup of young couples waiting to be married.
I believe that was called a friar.
Sorry?
That was called the friar.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of that traveling preacher stuff going on. It's great for clerics, but paladins coming in to just like come help as well, especially with like lay on hands, curing diseases and things as well. There's a lot of downtime stuff to do if you take ceremony.
I could definitely see a paladin with a background of an acolyte doing this.
Yeah. The only thing is it's a religious ceremony. You have to choose a god, right? And you don't have to for paladins in 5th ed. But I mean, why wouldn't you? I think it's awesome.
Kyle, I see your idea here as a Vegas preacher going around, and rather than them believing God, they just say, "Wait, who's your God that you believe in?" Yeah. Okay, by this God, we instill this upon you.
Well, I never understood why we can't have preachers of pantheons, right? It's always got to be one god of the pantheon. But I mean, let's say that there are 3 sister goddesses in the pantheon, and I pray to this one. Yeah, that's my goddess. I clearly believe the other 2 exist.
Mm-hmm.
Why can I not do rituals on their behalves as well, right? Like, depends on the religion, depends on how you run your your world, but I would totally I would let that be a thing where I am a preacher, a paladin, a cleric, whatever, of this pantheon or this aspect of the pantheon. Kyle, what do you have for paladins?
Okay, I picked Prayer of Healing because it is just so much better than Cure Wounds, and it's only a 2nd level spell. But and granted, it does take 10 minutes to cast, so you're not going to be able to do it in combat. But I mean, Cure Wounds is 1d8 plus your spellcasting modifier, whereas Prayer of Healing you get on one creature, whereas Prayer of Healing is you get to pick up to 6 creatures and it deals 2d8, right? Plus
No brainer. Yep.
1d8 for every level you cast above it, right? Like, why would you ever pick Cure Wounds? It's like god awful spell.
Now,
I'm
is
just
that
wondering-
2d8 each character, or is that in total hit points you distribute?
No, per character plus your spellcasting modifier.
Now it
Okay.
takes you a while to get 2nd level spells, and you don't get many of them as a half caster, but this feels like it's absolutely freaking worth it.
Yeah.
When does lay on hands regenerate? Is that short rest or long rest?
I think it's long rest, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Long rest. Yeah, replenishes on a long rest.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is an amazing way to boost that up too, right? Because you're going to use this during short rests.
Yeah. Oh wait, am I going to use it during short rests?
Oh, I think you absolutely would. Like this is absolutely, especially if you have someone else who's casting Catnap. So a short rest takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Everybody huddle around, close your eyes for a minute, doze a little bit. When you wake up, you'll feel roughly 2d8 better. Tyler, what do you got for level 3 for paladins?
All right, level 3, I have a fun spell here called Magic Circle. And very quickly, this is just a 10-foot radius cylinder of magical energy that's hieroglyphs all over, glowing throughout this 20-foot tall cylinder that's this 10-foot radius. And you can choose, I believe it is, I think it's Fae, Fiends, Celestials, Elementals, or Undead. Any one of those 5 you choose. And whatever you choose, that creature cannot enter into that cylinder by any non-magical means. And any that try to do it through magical way or through interplanar travel or whatever have to succeed on a charisma saving throw. Now, any attack that is put against the disadvantage that are trying to attack through it. And if they're within it, they can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by a creature, which is real big when it comes to undead, like ghosts and such. Now, Here's my favorite part of this spell. My absolute favorite part is you can reverse it.
Yeah.
That you put it on something and they can't get out. So if you have undead that you want to just trap, you just place this on them and then they suddenly cannot get out of this cylinder. They literally are stuck inside it. And this is pretty big, I would say, for any of these 5 if you look in a trap. Now, it is 1 minute to cast it, but I'm not going to use this in battle. I'm going to use this for exploration and for social, is what I'm using this primarily for. It might turn into battle, but I'm using this before battle starts or to try and diffuse a situation.
If I can be perfectly honest, I saw this used in Supernatural, the show, over and over and over again with undead, where they would salt in a circle around them, and I would absolutely let them use salt as one of the components. It says holy water, powdered silver, or iron, worth at least 100 gold pieces, but like I will let you use salt on this.
Yeah,
like
flavor it. Yeah,
it's so flavorful. And maybe
especially if it's
something
onion
different,
salt.
something different for each kind of creature, right?
Yeah,
Like iron for the Fae.
Yeah, and salt for undead, and silver for, I don't know, silver for fiends, I guess.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. No, I wonder, when it says fiends, does it mean, I guess it is all devils and demons.
Yeah, it's more than just that. It's also all Yugoloths and all the generic ones like Rakshasas and Night Hags as well, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, I thought I was talking about drug addicts.
But I just love this for the versatility that you can do with this, that it's not just protecting yourself. You essentially become a walking jailer.
Again, this is a great spell to have when you're playing Curse of Strahd.
Yes. You can
I
trap
think
Strahd in this.
I think it's a great conjunction spell, right? So you set it up, you upcast it so it lasts for more than an hour, and then you summon a creature inside it, right?
And then you put wall of flame in it, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't leave, and we're burning the whole place to the ground, right?
Or you fill it full of water. Create and destroy water.
Right? Like there's ways you can use. Or hold on, it was Fae, fiends, elementals, celestials, and undead. There are going to be some Fae that require that have the necessity to breathe, right? So you put this underwater and summon them in it, right?
Yeah.
You can summon a fire elemental into an underwater scenario with magic circle around them, right?
Now, I do have a question here, though. It says a 10-foot radius, 20-foot tall cylinder. Is it capped at the top, or can they get out?
Always. Yeah, this is sealed. You cannot fly out the top of a magic circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same way that, like, I'm not going to let you dig your way down and out either.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Let's move on to ranger spells. Kyle, what do you have?
I mean, honestly, I don't know if it's underutilized, but it's Hunter's Mark. I mean, it's the only first level spell I would really take with a ranger. I mean, Zephyr Strike is pretty good too, but Hunter's Mark is just, you deal 1d6 extra damage, you get advantage on tracking this creature, and then it lasts for an hour. So once that creature dies, you can just switch it over to a new creature, right? You're just constantly getting that extra damage for every attack you're doing. The only downside is that you do have to kill the creature before you can switch targets on who it is. So if you got a DM that loves running monsters away, right? You cast Hunter's Mark on one and it disappears, well, then you're just kind of screwed and stuck with it.
No, it's great for tracking.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's the underutilized part of it. Everybody wants it for the damage, for the extra d6. But I've seen this used to great effect where, like, there's a chase through the market, right? Or there's a chase through the wilderness, and we just drop Hunter's Mark on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, congratulations, you will stop eventually, and then we will show up, right? Like, it only lasts for an hour, but usually, like, nobody's sprinting for an hour, right? So
Yeah.
So let him go. Let's go get our mounts. We'll get him, right? I know where he
Absolutely.
is. So, what do you have for Rangers?
Oh, wait. What I have here is, I haven't seen this used much, Beast Sense. And essentially, you can touch a willing beast, and then as long as the spells lasts, you can see through their eyes and hear what it hears, and continue to do so until you stop it or up to an hour. It's concentration. Now, while this is happening, you're blinded and deafened yourself, but this is great for exploratory purposes. You do this, and then they can go survey. You can see, no one's going to suspect whatever creature you're seeing through. Now, I wonder, you could probably do this also in conjunction with Speak with Animals, so you can tell them what to do, and then they go and you see through them.
Yeah, I feel like this is you can use a couple spells here to get the feel of a temporary familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
I just think it's a really fun way of exploring.
Mine is a little bit more mechanical than what you guys come up with. It's level 3, and it's from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And it's a Chardalon's Stride. If I can be honest, you should really just fucking pick this one. It might be the best one that I've pointed out so far.
I almost picked it for another one of the categories.
Yeah, it's good for artificers, rangers, sorcerers, and wizards. But the idea here is that the billowing flame of a dragon blast comes from your feet. You not only get increased movement of 20 feet per round for up to a minute, it's concentration, but you don't provide opportunity attacks. This only takes a bonus action to cast, which means you can attack and then use this to cast your Chardalon Stride and then retreat. And here's the thing, when you move within 5 feet of any creature or object that isn't being carried or worn, then the object or the creature takes 1d6 fire damage from your trail of heat. Now, they only take it once per turn, but did you notice how there's not a save? That's just auto damage.
Auto damage.
And you can run between people and hit many creatures all at once. So it can act as an area of effect. If you were with your 20 feet additional movement speed, and if you are something like Aarakocra that's flying, because it doesn't say that you have to walk for this to happen. You just leave a trail of flame from your feet. So now you're moving 70 feet in a round because you're flying 2 feet above the ground. and just hitting everything on the battlefield and then fucking off.
Now,
Yeah.
you use your action to cast this, correct?
Nope, bonus action.
So I wonder, could you dash?
Yeah, absolutely you could.
Mhm.
There we go.
Oh boy. You're just choosing to dash, weaving your way in and out of everywhere.
But remember, it lasts up to a minute with your concentration, and they take damage once per turn. So assuming they're not readying actions to hit you on the way by, you can just literally run in circles around the whole battlefield and hit everybody for 1d6 fire damage that they cannot stop. There's no save.
Exactly, yeah. That is OP.
I love it. It's absolutely wild, and I'm amazed more people aren't talking about it. Let's jump into the last class of the episode here, and that is the Artificer, or as Terry says, the Artificer.
So for my first level spell, I wanted to go more on the comedic side of things because this just seems so good. I'm choosing Catapult. And when I think of an Artificer, this just fits so well. Essentially, you're allowed to launch anything 1 to 5 pounds up 90 feet in the air, and whatever direction you choose. And then after that, it falls to the ground. Or if it hits something, well, it obviously stops early. It doesn't keep going. But I really like this because if it falls on top of a creature, they have to make a dexterity throw. Or if it stops, they have to do that. And if the object hits something or someone, it takes 3d8 bludgeoning damage on a failed save.
3d8 is not nothing for a level 1 spell.
No, not
Yeah.
at all.
But I'm going to take this a little further. An Artificer, let's say you're an alchemist and you create a potion, something with acid in it, and you launch this into the air, and let's say it hits something before it shatters the vial. All of this spews, it rains down.
I have to be honest. I was just Googling the weight of both a gnome and a kobold, and they are both more than 5 pounds, and I am upset.
Not until you once you cast reduce on them though.
Yeah, so I was just thinking you cast reduce on them.
Just tiny little blood splatters on the wall of all the different gnomes that you just had enough of.
But I love the idea of for an Artificer being able to launch its creations into the air.
Yeah,
Like-
that's fun.
Pull!
Yeah. I do like the idea of throwing or shooting a vial of alchemist fire or acid at a creature too.
Well,
I'll tell you this though. What you really need to do is pick up a bag of ball bearings because you get 1,000 of them, and you
Yep.
will always have ammo.
Now, I guess, yeah, you can launch it 90 feet in any direction. So I guess it can be straight on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking more of a launching alchemy fire or acid upwards at an angle so it rains down. But yeah, you could do it straight forward too. You just created not just a catapult, you created a cannon.
Oh, you know what? You combine this with magic stone.
Hey, there you go.
Because that magic stone's a bonus action too.
Yep.
Yeah, shit,
So
that'll
you
do it.
deal 1d6 plus your spellcasting modifier plus 3d8 bludgeoning damage.
Oh boy.
For mine, for the Artificer, I came up with something that was, this is a utility spell, and it's weird that we didn't get it until Spelljammer. But it is Air Bubble. And Artificers, Druids, Rangers, Sorcerers, and Wizards get access to this. But essentially, you create a spectral globe around your head, or around the head of a willing creature that you can see within range. And that range is 60 feet. It takes an action to cast, but it's only a somatic component. And for the next 24 hours, there's fresh air in this bubble around their head. If the creature has more than one head, there's rules for it, but I mean, I don't think that's coming up a lot for players. The idea here is that they would all need a different bubble, assuming that they have different respiratory systems. But if they only have the one main one, then it should be fine, like a Hydra. It only needs one, but you can upcast this so that when you use a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, you can create 2 additional globes of fresh air for each spell slot above 2nd. So that's an additional 2 per. So if you cast this at 4th level, chances are good you've covered the whole party. At 5th level, you've got party and sidekicks, and maybe even mounts, right? Now, this was Spelljammer because we need to breathe in space, and sure, but this is also really good for underwater shit. And I feel like if you're playing Ghosts of Saltmarsh, or you're doing some underwater campaigns or pirate
This is
campaigns,
how you breathe.
yeah, this is, and honestly, it's so useful that I would put this on items as an Artificer and hand it out to people so that they can just activate their air bubble.
How does the air bubble dissipate? Like, can you hit it and it goes away, or does it stay?
Nope, there are 0 rules for this. All
So
it says is that The globe is filled with fresh air that lasts until the spell ends.
So I'm wondering, what if you were to put this around someone who doesn't breathe air and they are literally suffocating within the bubble?
Well, you mean like if
you're underwater,
goldfish?
Well, no, if you're underwater and you have any creature that cannot breathe or has trouble breathing air, you put them in this for 24 hours.
Oh yeah. You would kill something with gills.
Yeah.
But there are not a whole lot of underwater only creatures in 5th edition, except
pretty much
for
just
like straight up
beasts.
fish. So
Yeah.
So Kyle, you've got the last one.
So Artificer doesn't have a whole lot of 3rd level spells, so choices were a little bit limited, but I went with Blink because I think it's just a fun spell, right? You're here and then you're not. So you can avoid all attacks when it's not your turn. You do have to roll a d20. It lasts for a minute, no concentration. And if you roll above an 11 on the d20, you basically just disappear to the ethereal plane until the start of your next turn. You can still kind of see what's going on, but it's in shades of gray kind of thing. It's just, bloop, do your attacks and then bloop, disappear again.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Beauty. Blink is a lot of fun. It's honestly twice as good as Wink. All right.
Is that that's not a real spell, right?
No, that's not a real spell. If you say it with enough conviction, you will confuse your players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything like Blink is a lot of fun, especially for artificers too, because they don't have a whole lot of, I don't believe they have a whole lot of teleportation shit or a lot of here one moment gone the next. So their shit is usually damage based or like really utilitary. So that's utility based. So that's interesting. That's fun.
Now I want a spell called Wink, where if your eyes are closed, you can't take damage.
No, if you can't, no, Wink just gives you advantage on charisma checks.
Okay.
I cast Wink on myself, and everybody loves me just a little bit more. All right, so before we wrap this episode up, let's cut to our last ad break.
If you've been inspired by the conversation in this episode, please feel free to reach out and share your creativity and ideas with us and the rest of the community. You can reach us on Facebook and Instagram or on our subreddit, r/itsAmimic, where we keep a place for you to ask mailbag questions as well as our episode guide. Also, if you're feeling particularly generous, please follow and subscribe and leave us positive reviews, likes, and comments. Engagements like that help us pop up on search engines and keep this show running.
Okay, everyone, so let's choose one spell that someone else picked this episode that stands out to them as a clear unsung hero.
Let's grab dice, so you can't pick your own. 8.
5.
4.
Hey, I'm going first. Clearly my favorite one is Nature's Wrath that Kyle picked for the Druid. There's just so much shit I'm going to do with that. There's going to be lair actions for Dryads and Treants. It's going to be all over the Feywild. It's going to, I love it. I love it. I have had enough Druids in my games that I'm pissed that I've never seen this chosen.
I agree. It is really fun. If I had to choose one, though, it would actually have to be a Chardelin's Stride.
Oh, it's so powerful.
It is so powerful. And I'd want to see what other casters that can use this as well. But that is, I never even knew about that. So, I might be using that.
The Chardelin's Stride is for Artificer, Ranger. It's a weird one. Artificer, Ranger, Sorcerer, Wizard.
I would want to make an Artificer that can do that. And it's Iron Man.
Yeah.
For me, honestly, I'm going to go with Feign Death because I've passed over that spell countless times. I've never really given it a second thought. I was like, when am I ever actually going to use that? But now, today, I think there's a lot of untapped potential that I never really thought of before. So that's all for our discussion on the Forgotten Spells in 5th edition. Make sure that you subscribe or follow and check back regularly to see what inspirations and insights we'll have for you in the future.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, a store with some It's a Mimic merch, and a Patreon. This episode and others can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and most other podcast apps. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're going to get.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. Please check the show notes for this episode to see links, time codes, and credits. And don't forget to reach out and share your own inspirations.
Hey, this is normally the part of the podcast where we have a bunch of bloopers that happen. But for some reason, we were really on our A game and no bloopers were available. So, good for us. Anyway, I'd like to point out that it is nearly Christmas, and if you are like my D&D table, we tend to do a bit of a gift exchange. I want to reach out to everyone and say, I know the standard of buying dice or getting that cute little dice bag that has whatever your Secret Santa's character class is, or maybe you're just given elf ears, or one of the standard D&D gifts. But if you've got a little bit of a bigger budget, if you are thinking about giving a special gift to someone who loves D&D, I want to recommend a handful of books that might not be on the radar. Of course, the monsters know what they're doing. The monsters still know what they're doing. Or sorry, no, it's not. I know what you did last summer. More of the monsters know what they're doing. There's the book Live to Tell the Tale and How to Defend Your Lair. Live to Tell the Tale is the one for players. Everything else is meant for DMs. They're all by Keith Amon. They're all available online. These are all great books for tactics and learning a little bit more about how to play your character. If you're not thinking about that and you want something a little bit more relaxed, more chill, but still very much in the vein of D&D, if they like cooking, there's Hero's Feast. If they like drinking, there's Dungeon Master, a Drink Master's Guide. If you're into Call of Cthulhu, there's the Necro Nom 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 Nom, a cookbook of Eldritch Horror. And if you would like to be drinking your way through your Call of Cthulhu games, then there's Lovecraft Cocktails, Elixirs and Libations from the lore of H.P. Lovecraft. These are all books that are available on Amazon right now. You can go out and get them. This is an unpaid advertisement. They're all just things that I've run across in the bookstore, or I've been able to flip through at somebody else's house, or I've bought them myself, and I think that they're all fantastic. They're great, unique little Christmas gifts without necessarily going absolutely hog wild. So, something to think about in the future for your Dungeon Master, or just that player at the table who you'd like to acknowledge with a Secret Santa gift.
Well, that's it. Fly, my little dragons. Have a fantastic day.